When I pulled up to my father's house that September afternoon, I found my mother standing in the driveway holding a sledgehammer. Not supervising, not watching. Actually holding it, mid-swing, about to take out the bathroom wall my father had tiled by hand the year before he died. She saw me, smiled, and swung anyway. The crash echoed across the property like a gunshot. My father built that house with his own hands, every wall, every window, every single tile she'd just shattered. Maybe you've had someone take something precious from you while looking you dead in the eye. Maybe you've watched someone destroy your inheritance and call it love. Maybe you've been gaslit so thoroughly you started to believe you were the villain. Because that's what I thought for about 10 seconds. Then I saw the dumpster. Not just any dumpster, the industrial kind. The kind that costs $2,000 to rent for a week. Overflowing with wood, I recognized. Blue wallpaper with tiny white flowers from my childhood bedroom, crumpled like trash. Hand-carved crown molding my father had spent months perfecting, snapped into pieces. I'd like to know, have you ever had to choose between family and your soul? Because I didn't know I was about to make that choice. I thought I was just coming home. I parked, got out, my legs felt disconnected from my body. There were 3 contractor trucks in the driveway, not 1, 3. This wasn't a small project. This was demolition. The front door was wide open, not just unlocked, removed, leaning against the porch railing like something waiting to be thrown away. Inside was worse. The hallway where my father had taught me to measure twice and cut once, gutted to the studs. The built-in bookshelf where he'd displayed the tiny furniture he'd carved for my dollhouse when I was 6, torn out, leaving gaping holes in the wall. A man in a tool belt was ripping up the hardwood floors. Another was cutting into the kitchen cabinets with a circular saw, the scream of the blade drowning out everything else. When he saw me, he turned off the saw. "You must be Clara," he said cheerfully. "Your mom said you'd probably stop by, wanted it to be a surprise." The word surprise hit me like cold water. "What?" My voice came out wrong, too high, too thin. "What are you doing?" "The remodel." He gestured around proudly. "Mrs. Morgan said to get started before you arrived. We're making great progress. Should have the main floor demo done by Friday, then we start framing the master suite expansion and the 2 nurseries. 2 nurseries. I'm sorry, I managed. This is my house. I didn't authorize any." "Oh, she warned us you might be confused." He pulled out a clipboard. "See? All signed and approved. Property transfer went through 8 months ago. This is going to be your brother's family home now. He and his wife are expecting, and your mom said you're too busy with your career in the city anyway, so..." Each word was a knife, but that last one twisted. Too busy. Like my father's dying wish was an inconvenience to my schedule. I walked through the destruction like I was underwater. Everything moved too slow and too fast at once. The kitchen where my father had taught me to make his coffee, 3 sugars, splash of cream, stirred exactly 20 times. Cabinets ripped out, counters jackhammered into chunks. The living room where he'd sketched house plans by lamplight, telling me about load-bearing walls and natural light, furniture shoved into corners, subflooring exposed like wounds. The bathroom where that blue tile had been, my mother's sledgehammer work, completely destroyed. 30 years of careful craftsmanship, gone in an afternoon. I made it to the back porch before I had to sit down. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, bright and cheerful like she hadn't just been demolishing my inheritance with hand tools. "Clara, sweetheart, are you at the house? Isn't it exciting?" "Mom," I couldn't form full sentences. "What did you do?" "Oh, honey, don't be dramatic. I know change is hard, but this is going to be wonderful for Ethan. He and Daniela need space for the baby, and you're never there anyway." The place was just sitting empty. "It's my house." Silence. Just for a beat. Then her voice changed, went soft and dangerous. "Actually, Clara, it's the family house. Your father built it for all of us. And frankly, you've been so wrapped up in your little design projects in the city, someone had to step up and make sure it didn't go to waste. Ethan needs this." His business is failing, he can barely afford rent, and family helps family. That's what your father would have wanted. Dad told me. Your father was on morphine at the end, Clara. He wasn't lucid. He said a lot of things that didn't make sense. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, like she'd been preparing this exact speech. I was there, I said, my voice shaking. He told me the house was mine. 2 weeks before he died, he had documents drawn up. There are no documents. I would know. I handled everything. She sighed, and I could hear the shift, from defensive to wounded. The tone she always used when she wanted me to feel guilty for existing. I'm trying to keep this family together, Clara. I'm trying to make sure we don't lose each other the way we lost him. But if you want to be selfish about a house you never use, well, I suppose that's your choice. She hung up. I sat there on my father's porch, the only part they hadn't destroyed yet, and felt something crack open inside me. Not break, crack. Like ice on a frozen lake, splitting clean and sharp, showing me what had been underneath all along. I called Lydia, my best friend since 3rd grade. Now a lawyer who specialized in family law and had seen enough toxic families to write a book. She answered like she'd been waiting for this call my whole life. What happened? I told her. The dumpster, the contractors, the sledgehammer. My mother's voice, sweet as arsenic, telling me my father's dying wish was a morphine-induced hallucination. When I finished, Lydia was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. I'm coming up tonight. Don't touch anything. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone in your family without me present. Then, softer, Clara, get every document your father ever gave you about that house. Every receipt, every photo, every scrap of paper with his handwriting. Because we're going to war. I looked back through the open doorway at the ruins of my father's craftsmanship. Lydia, I whispered, they already won. They've destroyed everything. No, her voice was steel. They've shown you who they really are. Now we show them what happens when you steal from the wrong person. I heard footsteps, multiple sets. Heavy boots on gravel. I turned. My mother stood in the driveway, perfectly composed in a linen dress and her church pearls, still holding the sledgehammer, resting it against her shoulder like a baseball bat. Ethan was beside her, hands in his pockets, eyes avoiding mine. And behind them, at least 8 people. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my father's sister, all watching me like I was the problem. Mom smiled. The kind of smile you give a child who's throwing a tantrum you've already decided to ignore. Oh, honey, she said gently, loud enough for everyone to hear. I thought you'd be happy. We're turning it into Ethan's family home. This is what Dad would have wanted. This is what family does. And in that moment, standing in the wreckage of my father's last gift to me, surrounded by relatives who'd already chosen their side, I realized something I should have understood years ago. My mother hadn't just been waiting for him to die. She'd been planning this. And she'd brought witnesses to watch me break. She just didn't know I'd kept every page of my father's notes, every blueprint, every document he'd hidden from her. She didn't know that 2 weeks before he died, when she'd left his hospice room to get coffee, he'd squeezed my hand and whispered, "If your mother tries to take the house, there's a safety deposit box. Bank of America on 5th. The keys in my toolbox. Fight for it, Clara. Promise me." I'd promised. And now I was going to keep that promise, even if it cost me everything. The safety deposit box changed everything. I went to the bank at 7 a.m. the next morning, before Lydia even arrived. Found my father's toolbox in the garage, the one thing the contractors hadn't touched yet, and the key exactly where he said it would be, taped under the removable bottom tray. My hands shook so badly the bank employee had to help me unlock the box. Inside, a folder, thick, official, a property deed, signed, notarized, dated 2 weeks before my father's death, transferring the house to me. Only me. A letter in his handwriting. "Clara, if you're reading this, your mother has tried to rewrite what I built for you. Don't let her. This house is yours. I'm leaving the condo to Nora, the workshop and tools to Ethan. But this I built, thinking of you in every beam. Fight for it. You're stronger than you know. And a second document. This one made my blood run cold. A copy of my mother's will, the one she didn't know he had, where she'd left everything to Ethan. Not just her assets, everything, including his inheritance. She'd written me out completely, planned years ago. He'd known. He'd known what she was, and he'd protected me anyway. I photographed everything, took the originals, drove straight to Lydia's office. She'd gotten in at 3 a.m., driving from 2 hours away, had her entire conference table covered in legal pads, her laptop open to property law databases. When I showed her the deed, her eyes went sharp. This is it. This is bulletproof. She photographed it from 6 angles. But Clara, there's something you need to see. She turned her laptop toward me. On screen, a property transfer form, county records, dated 8 months ago. My signature at the bottom. Except I'd never signed it. I had a handwriting analyst look at it this morning, Lydia said quietly. It's a forgery. A good one. Someone practiced. The room tilted. Ethan, I whispered. Or your mother. Or both. She pulled up another screen. And there's more. Your brother took out a business loan 6 months ago. Used the house as collateral. If he defaults, and he's already 3 payments behind, the bank can seize it, even from you. But I own it. Dad's deed was never filed. Your mother's forged one was, in legal terms, hers is the one on record. She looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in Lydia's face before. Rage. Pure, cold rage. Clara, they didn't just steal your house. They stole it, and then used it to steal money from a bank. This isn't family drama anymore. This is organized fraud. My phone started ringing. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. Clara? A woman's voice. Quiet. Scared. Yes? This is Daniela, Ethan's wife. I need to talk to you, but not on the phone. Can you meet me? Somewhere your mother won't see? We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over, where no one would recognize us. Daniela was 7 months pregnant, dark circles under her eyes, hands wrapped around a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. I'm leaving him, she said before I could even sit down. After the baby comes, I'm done. But before I go, you need to know what they did. She pulled out her phone, showed me photos. My mother's kitchen table covered in documents, old birthday cards I'd sent, insurance forms with my signature, and Ethan, pen in hand, practicing my name on a legal pad. Sheet after sheet, my signature, over and over, getting closer each time. This was last November, Daniela said, right before Thanksgiving. I walked in and saw them. Your mother was coaching him. Make the C more open. Clara always does that little loop on the A, over and over. I couldn't breathe. I asked what they were doing. Your mother smiled at me. That smile she does. And said you'd verbally agreed to transfer the house, but were too busy to handle paperwork. That they were helping you. That it was family business and I shouldn't worry about it. Daniela's hands were shaking. I believed her. For about a day. Then I asked Ethan about it when we were alone. What did he say? He told me to mind my own business, said it was complicated, that I didn't understand family dynamics, that Mom knew what was best. She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. That's when I knew, if it was innocent, he wouldn't need to hide it. Why are you telling me this now? Because yesterday your mother called me, said if I testified for you in any legal proceeding, she'd make sure I never saw Ethan or my baby again. She'd turn him against me, poison the whole family, get me declared an unfit mother. Daniela's voice went hard. And I realized, that's what she's been doing to you. For years, making everyone think you're the problem so no one looks at what she's doing. She slid a USB drive across the table. I made copies, photos, text messages between Ethan and your mom planning it. Everything. She stood up, one hand on her belly. I'm testifying, Clara. Whatever it costs me, because I'm bringing a daughter into this world, and I will not teach her that this is what family looks like. After she left, I sat in that coffee shop with a USB drive full of evidence, and finally understood. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a grief-stricken widow making mistakes. This was premeditated theft, conspiracy, fraud, criminal fraud. And they documented everything. Lydia filed emergency motions that afternoon. Halt to all construction, cease and desist to my mother, motion to void the forged transfer, and a request for criminal investigation. My phone exploded. Texts from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. How could you do this to your mother? Ethan has a baby on the way, Clara. Have you no heart? Your father would be ashamed. We all know you were always jealous of Ethan. This is what happens when women choose career over family. I blocked 12 numbers in 1 hour. Then my mother's lawyer called, not my mother. Her lawyer. Ms. Morgan, my client is willing to offer a generous settlement. She'll deed you the condo in town, valued at $300,000, and we can all move past this unpleasantness. The house is worth $800,000, I said, and it's mine. My father's deed says so. That deed was never filed. It has no legal standing. Because my mother buried it and filed a forgery. Pause. Then, colder, my client denies any knowledge of forgery. She believed the signature was genuine. Your brother handled the paperwork. Then your client should have checked before filing it. Ms. Morgan, I'm trying to help you avoid a very public, very ugly legal battle. Your family is prepared to testify that you verbally agreed to this transfer, that you were unstable after your father's death, that you've made threats. I've made 0 threats. And that this is a grief-driven delusion. By the time we're done, your reputation will be destroyed. No one will hire you, no one will believe you. Is that really worth one house? I looked at Lydia. She nodded. Yes, I said. See you in court. I hung up. That night my mother posted on Facebook a long, heartfelt post about grief and family, and how sometimes the people you love most hurt you deepest. I'm heartbroken, she wrote. My daughter is taking me to court over her father's house, a house her father and I built together with our own hands. She claims he promised it to her alone, but I have no record of that. What I do have is 18 months of watching her neglected, while her brother and his pregnant wife desperately need a home. I tried to help. I tried to keep our family together. But sometimes love isn't enough. Please pray for us. Pray for Clara especially. Grief can make us do terrible things. The comments poured in. Praying for you, Nora. Some children just don't appreciate what they have. She should be ashamed. But then something happened. One comment, from someone I didn't know. Nora, I'm confused. I thought James built that house specifically for Clara. I remember him showing me the plans at the hardware store, saying it was his retirement project for his daughter. Another. Yeah, James talked about that house all the time. Said Clara's name was carved into the foundation. Literally. My father's friends, people who'd worked on the property with him, started commenting, correcting, defending. The post turned into a war zone. My mother deleted it within an hour. But screenshots live forever. Lydia called me at midnight. Clara, we got him. Got who? Your father's lawyer. The one who retired to Florida. He didn't retire, he moved to take care of his wife, and he kept copies of everything. She sounded breathless. He's willing to testify. He remembers your father coming in 2 weeks before he died, insisting on the deed change. He has notes, emails, everything. Does he know Mom buried the original? He suspected. Said she came to his office after the funeral, asking for copies of all James's documents for estate purposes. He gave her copies. Kept originals. Said something felt off about her urgency. I closed my eyes. How fast can we move? Hearings in 6 days. Civil first. Criminal investigation opens after. Clara? Her voice softened. Are you ready for what's coming? Because when we file all this evidence, there's no going back. Your family will never forgive you. I thought about my father's letter. About Daniela risking everything to tell the truth. About my mother swinging that sledgehammer at his life's work while smiling. They already took everything, Lydia. There's nothing left to lose. Except your peace. No, I said quietly. I'm getting that back. That's what I'm fighting for. The next morning, my mother called me directly. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Clara. Her voice was different. No sweetness. No performance. Just cold. I'm gonna give you one last chance to make this right. Drop the lawsuit. Accept the condo. Walk away. And we can all move forward. You forged my signature, Mom. You buried Dad's deed. You destroyed his house. I protected this family. That's what I've always done. By stealing from me? You don't need that house, Clara. You have your career, your life. Ethan has nothing. He's drowning in debt. His wife is leaving him. His business is failing. I was trying to save him. By destroying me. Silence. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then, if you go through with this, you're not my daughter anymore. You'll be alone. Completely alone. No family. No one at holidays. No one to call when things get hard. Is that really what you want? To throw away your entire family for wood and nails? I looked at the photo on my phone. My father, standing in front of the house, smiling. His house, his love, made solid. You threw me away the day you picked up that sledgehammer, I said. I'm just making it official. I hung up. And finally, I understood. They'd forged my name because they knew I'd never give permission, which meant they'd always known they were stealing. They'd just assumed I was too weak to fight back. That was their first mistake. Their second was putting it all in writing. The courthouse steps were lined with relatives when we arrived for the hearing. Not inside, outside, like a protest. My mother had organized them. Aunt Patricia with a handmade sign, "Families forgive." Uncle Joel with his arms crossed, glaring. My father's sister Margaret, who I'd always loved, looking at me like I'd murdered someone. And my mother, center stage, being comforted by Ethan while news cameras filmed. News cameras. She called the press, Lydia muttered. Jesus Christ, she called the press. A reporter rushed over as we approached the steps. Ms. Morgan, is it true you're taking your grieving mother to court over your childhood home? Can you comment on allegations that you abandoned your family after your father's death? I kept walking. Ms. Morgan, your brother says you have no children, no spouse. Do you really need a 4-bedroom house while his family is homeless? Lydia stepped between us. My client will not be commenting on an active legal case. Please direct all questions to... Is it true you threatened to have your mother arrested? Another reporter, shoving a microphone in my face. I stopped. Lydia grabbed my arm, but I pulled away. Yes, I said clearly. Because she forged my signature on legal documents and destroyed property my father built specifically for me. That's not a family dispute, that's fraud. And if your mother committed fraud against you, you'd want her arrested too. The reporters went silent. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have evidence to present. I walked past my mother. She was crying, for the cameras. But when our eyes met, hers were bone dry. Inside the courthouse, Lydia gripped my shoulder. That was either brilliant or disaster. We'll find out which. The hearing room was packed. Every seat taken. More relatives. My mother's church friends. People I didn't even recognize. And in the back row, Daniela, 7 months pregnant, alone. The judge entered. Honorable Sarah Chen, 60-something. With the kind of face that had seen every variation of human ugliness and wasn't impressed. This is a civil hearing regarding property ownership and allegations of fraud, she began. I've reviewed the preliminary filings. This is extensive. My mother's lawyer stood. $800 an hour smile. Custom suit. The kind of lawyer you hire when you're planning to lie and want it to sound good. He painted a picture of a devoted mother, 40 years of marriage, trying to navigate grief while keeping her family together. He called my mother a saint. Called Ethan a struggling father-to-be. Called me absent, cold, career-obsessed. Ms. Clara Morgan left town immediately after her father's funeral, he said. She visited once in 18 months. Didn't call her mother on holidays. Showed no interest in maintaining the property. When Mrs. Morgan tried to ensure the house didn't fall into disrepair by offering it to her son's growing family, Ms. Morgan responded with lawyers and accusations. He held up papers. We have documentation that Clara verbally agreed to this transfer. We have testimony from family members. We have... Forgery, Lydia said, standing. You have forgery. Shall we start there? She laid out evidence like she was building a case made of steel. The original deed, my father's deed, signed, notarized, dated 2 weeks before his death. Clear as day. Property transfers to Clara Marie Morgan, solely and completely. The forged deed. My signature, except it wasn't. Handwriting analysis, submitted by a certified expert. The signatures do not match. Forgery is evident. The photos from Daniela. My mother's kitchen table. Ethan practicing my signature, sheet after sheet. Testimony from my father's lawyer. James specifically told me this house was for Clara only. He was adamant. Said his wife was to get the condo, his son the tools and workshop. The house was Clara's. No ambiguity. Bank records showing Ethan's loan, using the house as collateral 3 months after the forged transfer. And text messages between my mother and Ethan. Lydia read them aloud. Have you practiced enough? We need to file by Friday. I think I have it. Clara's C is hard to get right. Don't worry, sweetheart. She'll never fight us. She's too passive. This will all blow over. The courtroom went silent. My mother's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, these messages are taken out of context. What context? Judge Chen said flatly. Makes, have you practiced forging your sister's signature acceptable? No answer. Mrs. Morgan, the judge said, stand up, please. My mother stood, still crying, still performing. Did you file a property transfer document with your daughter's signature? I did, Your Honor, but... Did your daughter sign it? Pause. Too long. My son signed it, but Clara had given verbal. Did your daughter sign it herself? No, but... Did you know, at the time of filing, that she hadn't signed it? My mother's lawyer tried to intervene. Your Honor, my client was under duress, grief-stricken. I'll ask again. Did you know the signature was forged when you filed it? My mother looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw it. The calculation, the decision. She was going to lie under oath. No, she said. I believed Ethan when he said Clara had signed it. You were present when he forged it. I don't recall. We have photos, time-stamped, of you sitting at the table while he practiced. My mother's face went white. Then she made a choice, the wrong one. My husband would have wanted Ethan to have that house, she said, voice rising. James loved our son. He would have wanted him to succeed, to have security. Clara doesn't need it. She has her career, her life. But Ethan is struggling, and family helps family. I did what a mother does. I protected my child. By stealing from your other child? It's not stealing if it's family. The courtroom erupted. Judge Chen banged her gavel. Order! Mrs. Morgan, sit down. Then she turned to me. Ms. Morgan, would you like to address the court? I stood, legs shaking, but voice steady. Your Honor, my father built that house for me. He told me so on his deathbed. He had legal documents drawn up. He carved my name into the foundation. Literally carved it. You can go check. It's there. For Clara. Love, Dad. My voice cracked. He spent 2 years building it. Every weekend. Every evening after work. He showed me the plans, asked my opinion on paint colors, taught me how to lay tile in the bathroom. It wasn't just a house. It was proof that I mattered to him, that I was seen, that I was loved. I looked at my mother. And the day I drove up to finally move in, to finally live in that proof, I found her destroying it. With a sledgehammer, she was smiling. The contractors were ripping out everything he'd built. And when I asked why, she told me he was on morphine, that his love for me was a hallucination, that I didn't deserve it because I have a career instead of children. Tears now. I couldn't stop them. She didn't just steal property, Your Honor. She tried to erase the last thing my father gave me. She tried to make me believe his love wasn't real, that I imagined it, that I was crazy for thinking I deserved it. I wiped my eyes. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the property value. I care that my father built me a home, and she destroyed it while telling everyone I was the selfish one. I sat down. Silence. Complete silence. Then Judge Chen spoke. I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff. The property transfer is voided immediately. Full ownership is restored to Clara Morgan. Mrs. Morgan and Mr. Morgan are ordered to pay restitution for all damages, and I'm calculating that as the cost to restore the property to its pre-demolition state, plus all legal fees. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. Additionally, the judge continued, I'm referring this case to the district attorney. What I've seen today isn't a family disagreement. It's fraud, conspiracy, possible elder abuse. There will be criminal charges. She looked at my mother and Ethan. You didn't just betray trust, you falsified documents, filed them with the county, used them to secure loans. That's not family business, that's organized crime. She banged the gavel. Court adjourned. Lydia hugged me. We did it, Clara, we actually did it. But I felt nothing, just hollow. Outside, the relatives were waiting. But they'd heard. Word had spread. My mother's friends from church, the ones who'd been so supportive, were leaving. Quickly, silently. Uncle Joel wouldn't look at me, just got in his car and drove away. Aunt Patricia stopped. Clara, I didn't know about the forgery. Your mother said you'd agreed. You believed her without asking me. She didn't have an answer for that. Only one person approached. Daniela. Thank you, she said, for not folding. It made it easier for me to not fold either. Are you okay? I'm leaving tonight, going to my sister's. Filing for divorce next week. She put her hand on her belly. My daughter's going to know what boundaries look like, even if it means she never meets her grandmother. She walked away. And I stood on those courthouse steps, victorious and destroyed, watching my family scatter like roaches when the light comes on. My mother passed me on her way to her lawyer's car. Stopped. You've destroyed this family, she said quietly. I hope you're happy. You destroyed it, I said. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already dead. She left. And in that moment, standing alone on the steps while news cameras filmed and strangers gawked, I realized something. I'd won the battle. But the war was just beginning. Because my mother wasn't done. People like her never are. The criminal trial started 4 months later. In that time, my life became a highlight reel of consequences. My mother was charged with fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and perjury. Ethan took a plea deal, guilty to forgery, 3 years probation, $50,000 restitution. But my mother, she refused to plead, refused to admit wrongdoing, hired an even more expensive lawyer and prepared to tell her story to a jury. I'm a grieving widow, she told reporters on the courthouse steps, being persecuted by a daughter who cares more about property than family. The prosecution had other ideas. They'd found more, so much more. Bank records showing my mother had been taking money from my father's account for years, small amounts, regularly transferring them to Ethan. Nearly $200,000 over a decade. Insurance documents where she'd tried to make herself beneficiary of my father's life insurance, forging his signature. That one failed because the insurance company caught it. And testimony. From people I'd never met. My father's business partner, James, told me his wife was trying to control the will. He was worried she'd cut Clara out. That's why he set up the trust and the separate deed. His doctor, he specifically said, and I quote, make sure Clara gets the house. My wife will try to give it to Ethan. The contractor who'd helped him build it. James showed me the foundation before he poured it. He'd carved for Clara in the forms, said it was the most important thing he'd ever build. And my mother's own sister, my Aunt Sophie, who I barely knew. She took the stand on day 2 of the trial, looked at my mother in the defendant's chair, and burned it all down. Nora has always been like this, Sophie said. Even when we were kids. If she wanted something, she'd take it. Then she'd cry and say someone else was being mean. She did it to me with our mother's jewelry, did it to James with his business, and now she's doing it to Clara. Objection! My mother's lawyer jumped up. Speculation and character assassination. I'll allow it, the judge said. Please continue, Ms. Grant. Sophie looked at me. I tried to warn James when they got married. But he was in love. Didn't see it. By the time he did, 20 years in, he was trapped. He told me once, about 5 years ago, that he was staying for Clara. That if he left, Nora would punish her, use her as ammunition. Did he say how? He said Nora had already poisoned half the family against Clara, made them think she was cold, ungrateful, that if he divorced Nora, Clara would lose everyone. Sophie's voice broke. So he stayed. And he built that house as insurance, as proof, so Clara would have something Nora couldn't twist into a lie. My mother's lawyer tried everything, called Sophie jealous, estranged, unreliable. But then the prosecution played a recording. My father. A voice memo on his phone, dated 3 weeks before he died. The hospice nurse had found it when clearing out his belongings and turned it over to police. The courtroom went silent as his voice filled the room. This is James Morgan. It's March 15th. I'm recording this because I'm dying. And I need people to know the truth. My wife Nora has been manipulating our family finances for years. She's turned our son against our daughter. She's told people Clara abandoned us when Clara calls twice a week. She's rewriting history while I'm still alive, so God knows what she'll do when I'm gone. His voice, weak but clear, undeniable. I'm leaving the house, the one I built with my hands, to Clara, only Clara. I've had legal documents drawn up. I've told my lawyer. I've told Clara herself. If Nora tries to claim I wanted anything different, she's lying. The house is Clara's. It's the only thing I can give her that Nora can't poison. Please. Someone. Make sure Clara gets what's hers. Silence. Then my mother stood up. That's not. He was confused. The morphine. Sit down, Mrs. Morgan, the judge said. He didn't mean. Sit down. She sat, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. The prosecution rested their case that afternoon. My mother's defense was simple. She was a grieving widow who'd misunderstood her husband's wishes. She'd believed Ethan when he said I'd agreed. She'd thought she was helping, she'd made mistakes, but they weren't crimes. My client is guilty of loving her son too much, her lawyer argued, of wanting to help him, of trying to keep her family together after devastating loss. These are not the actions of a criminal. These are the actions of a mother. The jury deliberated for 11 hours. They came back at 9 p.m. on a Friday. Guilty, on all counts. My mother's face went gray. She aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Sentencing was set for 3 weeks later. In those 3 weeks, everything unraveled. Ethan's wife Daniela had the baby, a healthy girl, and immediately filed a restraining order preventing my mother from contact. I will not expose my daughter to someone convicted of fraud and conspiracy, her filing stated. The family imploded. Relatives who'd supported my mother suddenly remembered they'd always had doubts. Church friends stopped calling. Her book club uninvited her. And the local newspaper ran a feature, How One Woman's Greed Destroyed a Family's Legacy. They interviewed my father's friends, showed pictures of the house before and after demolition, quoted his voice memo. The comment section was brutal. The mother is a monster. Imagine destroying your husband's final gift to your daughter. That poor girl, I hope she rebuilds it exactly as it was. The brother is just as bad. They both deserve prison. My mother called me. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Clara, please, I'm going to prison. They're saying 2 to 5 years. I'm 64 years old. I'll be 70 when I get out. Please, drop the charges. Tell them you forgive me. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Please, I'm your mother. I saved the voicemail, didn't respond, because she wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she got caught. Sentencing day came. The courtroom was packed again. But different people this time. My father's friends. Contractors who'd worked on the house. Daniela with her baby. Even my old high school teacher who'd heard about the case and wanted to support me. No relatives. Not one. They'd all scattered. The judge looked at my mother. Mrs. Morgan, you've been convicted of fraud, conspiracy, and perjury. Before I pass sentence, do you have anything to say? My mother stood. She'd aged dramatically. Prison orange instead of pearls. No makeup. Hair graying at the roots. Your Honor, I'm a mother. I was trying to help my son. I made mistakes, yes, but they came from love. From wanting to keep my family together after my husband died. I never meant to hurt anyone. You forged your daughter's signature. I thought she'd agreed. You were photographed coaching your son while he practiced the forgery. It was complicated. You buried your husband's legal will and filed a fraudulent one. I was grieving. You took a sledgehammer to property you knew wasn't yours and smiled while destroying it. Silence. Mrs. Morgan, grief doesn't make you forge documents. Grief doesn't make you conspire to steal your daughter's inheritance. Grief doesn't make you lie under oath. The judge's voice was ice. Greed does, control does, and a fundamental lack of respect for your daughter's humanity does. She looked at me. Ms. Morgan, would you like to make a statement? I stood. Everyone watched. Your Honor, my mother asked if I have anything to say. I do. I looked at her. You spent my entire life making me feel small, making me think my needs didn't matter, that wanting anything for myself was selfish. You told me family meant sacrifice, but you only ever asked me to sacrifice. Never Ethan, never yourself, just me. My voice steadied. When Dad died, I thought we'd get closer. I thought grief would bring us together. Instead, you used it as an opportunity. You destroyed the one thing he built to show me I mattered. You tried to gaslight me into thinking his love was a hallucination. You brought the entire family to watch me break. I stepped closer. You didn't just steal a house, Mom. You tried to steal my memories, my proof, my belief that I deserved to be loved. And when I fought back, you called me ungrateful. Tears now, but not sad ones, angry ones. I spent 38 years trying to earn your love. Trying to be good enough, trying to make you proud, and the whole time you were waiting for Dad to die so you could erase me. That's not, she started. I'm not done, my voice cut through. You asked me to drop the charges, to tell the court I forgive you, you want mercy. I met her eyes. You're sitting in that chair because you showed me none. You destroyed my inheritance because you thought I was too weak to fight back. You forged my signature because you thought I'd never know. You performed for cameras because you thought everyone would believe you over me. I picked up a folder from the table, opened it. This is a copy of your will, the one Dad found and copied before he died. The one where you left everything to Ethan. Not half, everything. You wrote me out completely, years ago. I showed it to the court, to her. You were planning this long before Dad got sick. This wasn't grief. This was always the plan. The courtroom erupted. My mother's face crumbled. Clara, I can explain. No, you can't. Because there's no explanation that makes this okay. I closed the folder. You asked if I forgive you. I don't. I won't. Because forgiveness would require remorse. And you've shown none. You're only sorry you got caught. I looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'm not asking for leniency. I'm asking for justice. Not just for me, but for my father, who spent his last weeks terrified you'd do exactly this. And for every daughter who's been told she's selfish for wanting what's rightfully hers. I sat down. The judge looked at my mother for a long moment. Mrs. Morgan, I'm sentencing you to 5 years in state prison. You'll be eligible for parole after 3, contingent on full restitution to your daughter and completion of a rehabilitation program. She banged the gavel. You stole your daughter's inheritance, destroyed her father's legacy, and showed no remorse. 5 years is lenient. I'm also issuing a permanent restraining order. You are not to contact Clara Morgan in any form for any reason for the rest of your life. No, my mother gasped. Please, she's my daughter. You should have remembered that, the judge said, before you took a sledgehammer to her father's house. Guards led her away. She looked back at me once, not with love, not with regret. With hatred. Pure, undisguised hatred. And I felt nothing. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Ms. Morgan, how do you feel? Are you satisfied with the sentence? Will you ever reconcile with your mother? I stopped, looked at the cameras. My mother spent my whole life teaching me that family means unconditional forgiveness, that you accept abuse because they're blood. That standing up for yourself makes you the villain. I paused. She was wrong. Family isn't about blood, it's about respect, love, truth. And when those things are gone, all you have left is biology and trauma. Do you regret taking her to court? No, I regret that I had to. I regret that she chose theft over honesty, destruction over love. But I don't regret fighting back. Because the alternative was spending the rest of my life believing I deserved what she did. I walked away. And for the first time in 4 months, I felt light. The restoration took 6 months. I hired the same father and son contractor team, showed them my father's sketchbook, the one Daniela had returned, showed them the photos from before, told them the stories behind every detail. We're not just rebuilding, the father said, we're honoring. We started in January, tore out everything the first contractors had destroyed, hauled away 20 tons of debris, my mother's violence, removed piece by piece. Then we rebuilt. I kept my father's original framing, his foundation, the pencil marks on the beams where he'd measured twice, the stone fireplace he'd built by hand. But I made it mine too. Opened up the kitchen to the living room. He'd always said he wished he'd done that. Added a wall of windows facing the oak trees. Painted the bedroom a deep, peaceful blue. Built a workshop where I could design, surrounded by his tools. Not a shrine, a home. A life. Every weekend I drove out from the city, watched the progress, sometimes picked up a brush or a hammer and helped. The repetitive work was meditative. Healing. Lydia came with me often. We'd bring coffee, sit on the porch, talk about everything except the trial. You seem different, she said one morning. Lighter. I am. Because you won? Because I stopped carrying them. She understood. The house was finished in July, 1 year almost to the day since I'd driven up and found the dumpster. The contractors did a final walkthrough with me, showed me every repair, every restoration, every choice they'd made to honor the original while making room for the new. It was beautiful. Not perfect. You could see where new met old, where damage had been repaired but not erased. But that felt honest, true. I moved in on a Saturday. The first night, I sat on the porch with my father's sketchbook open on my lap, watching the sun set through the trees he'd chosen this exact spot to frame. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Clara, this is Sophie, your aunt. Oh, hi. I wanted to call, to apologize, for not protecting you sooner, for not speaking up when Nora was turning everyone against you, for believing her stories. I didn't know what to say. I testified at the trial, she continued, but I should have done more before it got that far. I should have called you after James died, checked in, made sure you were okay. Why didn't you? Because Nora told me you didn't want contact, that you blamed the family for not doing more while James was sick, that you'd cut everyone off. Sophie's voice broke. I believed her. I'm so sorry. She told everyone that, didn't she? Yes, and we all believed it, because it was easier than questioning her, easier than admitting we'd enabled her for decades. We talked for an hour. She told me stories about my father I'd never heard, about how he'd pushed back against my mother in small ways, how he'd protected me more than I knew. He loved you so much, Clara. Everything he did at the end. The deed, the recording, the sketchbook. It was all to make sure you knew that. To make sure Nora couldn't take it away. After we hung up, I cried. Not from sadness. From relief. From finally understanding. My father had seen what my mother was. And he'd built me an escape route. A proof. A foundation I could stand on when everything else crumbled. The house wasn't just a gift. It was a message. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to exist without making yourself smaller. Weeks turned into months. I quit my job in the city, started my own architectural design firm, working from the home office my father had sketched in his plans. Small residential projects. Houses for people who wanted something made with intention, with love. I was good at it. Better than I'd been working for someone else's vision. Daniela visited once, with her daughter Emma. We sat on the porch while Emma slept in her carrier. Ethan wants to meet her, Daniela said quietly. His probation officer is helping him set up supervised visits. But I'm not sure I want that. Why not? Because I don't want her to learn his values. To think manipulation and lies are okay if you call it family. She looked at the house. You fought for this. And I keep thinking, I want Emma to see that. To know that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. The boundaries aren't betrayal. What are you going to tell her? About her father? The truth. That he made choices that hurt people, that he's trying to do better but trust is earned, not owed, and that she never has to set herself on fire to keep someone else warm. We sat in comfortable silence. "Thank you," she said eventually, "for not folding. For showing me what fighting back looks like. I don't think I would have left if I hadn't watched you refuse to back down." "You would have, eventually. Maybe. But maybe too late." She looked at Emma. "This way, she'll grow up knowing her mom chose her. Chose safety. Chose truth." After they left, I walked through the house slowly, touching the walls, the restored trim, the fireplace stones. My father's work, my work, combined. I found the spot in the foundation where he'd carved my name. It was in the crawl space, invisible unless you knew to look. "For Clara, love, Dad." I ran my fingers over it and whispered, "I kept it standing, just like I promised." That night, I got an email. From Ethan. I almost deleted it. But something made me read it. "Clara, I know you'll probably delete this. I know I have no right to ask for anything from you. But I'm writing anyway, because my therapist says I need to take responsibility without expecting forgiveness. I was wrong. Everything I did, forging your signature, letting Mom manipulate the situation, using the house as collateral, all of it was wrong. I told myself I was desperate, that I needed help, that you didn't need it as much as I did. But the truth is, I was jealous. You had a career, a life, Dad's respect. And I had debt and failure and Mom whispering that you didn't appreciate the family, that you thought you were better than us. I believed her because it was easier than facing my own inadequacy. I destroyed something you loved because I couldn't stand that Dad loved you more openly than he loved me, and I'm sorry. Not because I got caught. Not because I want something from you, but because you deserved better from your brother. I don't expect a response. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know you were right to fight. You were right to refuse to fold. You are right about everything. I hope the house is everything Dad wanted it to be. I hope you're happy there. I'm sorry. Ethan?" I read it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop. Maybe one day I'd respond, maybe not. But that wasn't the point. The point was, I didn't need his apology to move forward. I didn't need my mother's remorse. I didn't need the family's understanding. I already had everything I needed. A year later, I stood on my porch at sunrise, coffee in hand, watching the light paint the hills gold. My phone buzzed. A text from Lydia. "Saw the article. You're famous now." I'd been featured in Architectural Digest. "How one woman rebuilt her father's legacy after family betrayal," the headline read. They'd photographed the house, interviewed me about the design choices, the restoration process, about grief and reconstruction, about making something beautiful from something broken. The article went viral. I got emails from strangers saying they'd gone through similar family betrayals, that my story gave them permission to fight back, to stop accepting abuse disguised as love. One email stuck with me. "My mother stole my inheritance too. She said family means sacrifice, and I believed her for years. But your story made me realize sacrifice should be mutual. Volunteered, not demanded. I hired a lawyer yesterday. Thank you for showing me it's okay to fight. Sarah?" I wrote back, "It's more than okay, it's necessary. Good luck, you've got this." That afternoon, Sophie called again. We'd been talking regularly now, rebuilding what my mother had burned down. "I have something for you," she said. "Can I come by?" She arrived an hour later with a box. Inside, photos. Dozens of them. My father and me at various ages, building a treehouse, learning to use a level, painting a birdhouse bright blue. "I've been going through old albums," Sophie explained. "Nora tried to get rid of these after James died. Said they were too painful. But I kept them, I'm glad I did." I looked through them, tears streaming down my face. Evidence, proof, memories my mother couldn't gaslight away. "Thank you," I whispered. "He loved you so much, Clara. Never doubt that." After she left, I framed 3 photos, hung them in my office. My father and me, building, creating, together. As summer turned to fall, I started something new. A support group. For people whose families had stolen from them. Financial abuse. Property theft. Inheritance fraud. We met once a month at my house, sat on the porch or around the fireplace, shared stories, strategies, resources. My brother forged my signature on a loan. My mother emptied my father's account the day he died. My sister convinced my grandmother to change her will. Story after story. And each time, the same pattern. Family members who weaponized love. Who demanded silence in exchange for belonging. Who punished boundaries with exile. What do we do? Someone asked at our third meeting. How do we move forward? You fight, I said. You document everything. You get lawyers. You refuse to be gaslit. And then, whether you win or lose legally, you build a life where they can't touch you anymore. But they're family. So are you, and you're the family member who deserves protection most, from yourself, from the version of you that keeps accepting abuse because you were trained to. The group grew. 10 people, 20, 50. We started a website, a legal resource fund, a network of lawyers who understood family theft. And every meeting I told them about the house. My father built this knowing my mother would try to take it, so he made it bulletproof. Documentation, evidence, love made tangible. And when she came with her sledgehammer, I had something solid to stand on. That's what you have to do. Build something they can't destroy. Whether it's legal protection, financial independence, or just unshakable knowledge of your own worth. Build it, protect it, stand on it. 2 years after the trial, I got a letter. From my mother. Forwarded through Lydia because of the restraining order. Clara, I'm being released next month. I've completed my rehabilitation program. I've had time to think about what I did. I'd like to see you. To apologize properly. To try to repair our relationship. You're my daughter. I'm your mother. That has to mean something. Please, give me a chance. Mom. I read it. Once. Then I filed it away. No response. Because here's what I'd learned. Some relationships aren't meant to be repaired. Some people don't change. Some apologies are just manipulations with better vocabulary. And I didn't owe her forgiveness just because she finally got caught, paid a price, and said the words she thought would unlock my compliance. I owed myself peace. And peace looked like a life without her in it. 3 years after that September afternoon when I found the dumpster, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. Not family, chosen family. Lydia and her wife. Daniela and Emma, now 3 years old. Sophie and her husband. Members of my support group. My father's old friends. The contractors who'd rebuilt the house. We filled the rooms with laughter and food and warmth. Emma ran through the hallways my father had framed. Played in the workshop with the toys I'd built using his tools. Drew pictures at the kitchen table I'd designed. This is what he wanted, Sophie said, watching. Not a museum, a home, life, love. Exactly this. After dinner, I stood on the porch as the sun set. Lydia joined me. You did it, she said. You actually did it. Did what? Built a life they can't touch. Became the person your father knew you were. I smiled. I'm still becoming. Aren't we all? That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the living room, the house settling around me, the fireplace crackling. And I thought about my father. About the choice he'd made at the end. To protect me rather than keep the peace. To document the truth rather than hope for the best. To build me a foundation rather than trust that love alone would be enough. He'd known my mother would come with sledgehammers. So he'd given me blueprints, evidence, and a name carved in concrete. And it had been enough. Not to prevent the pain, not to stop the betrayal. But to survive it, to rebuild, to prove that I was worth fighting for. I pulled out a sketchbook, opened to the first page. For Clara, a place to build the life you deserve. I picked up a pen, added my own note underneath. For anyone who needs to know, you deserve to take up space. You deserve to be loved without conditions. You deserve to build a life where no one can make you small. And if your family can't see that, build it anyway. Stand on it anyway. Live it anyway. Your worth isn't up for negotiation, even if they tried to bargain with it. Especially then. Clara, I closed the book. Outside, wind moved through the oak trees. Inside, the house stood solid, built with steady hands, restored with determined ones. My father built this house with clear intention and deep love. But it took everything that broke inside me, every moment of doubt, every hour in courtrooms, every tear shed over family that chose cruelty, to make it truly mine. Not because I fought for it, but because I finally understood love that requires you to disappear isn't love. It's erasure. And I was done being erased. I turned off the lights, locked the doors, went upstairs to the bedroom with the perfect window, the one my father had positioned to frame the sunrise. Tomorrow the sun would come up. I would make coffee in my kitchen, stand on my porch, live my life. In the house my father built. That I rebuilt. That finally, completely, permanently belonged to me. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 5 years later, Emma asks why she doesn't see her grandmother. Daniela tells her the truth. Some people choose things over people. Grandma Nora chose greed. So we choose safety. Emma nods. Accepts. Doesn't push. Because she's growing up in a house where boundaries are normal. Where no is respected. Where love doesn't hurt. She's growing up knowing family is who shows up, who protects, who sees you and doesn't try to make you smaller to fit their story. And sometimes, often, that family isn't blood. It's choice. And that's the best inheritance of all.